It's a murder on the dance floor, but you better not kill the groove, DJ. Gonna burn this goddamn house right down. I know.
A few years back, I worked part-time covering as a karaoke host at a local bar. I've had a few run-ins with drunken idiots, but this one was by far the scariest. I'd only been working there about 3 weeks at this point. Prior to me, it had been 3 different girls hosting, so I was the first guy. While training, they warned me if I ever felt uncomfortable to call for security. I immediately took that as guys getting too handsy with the girls, so I figured I wouldn't have any issues since I was the first guy here. I quickly learned that the difference for me would be that people tend to get more aggressive with a guy than with a girl. So it was a Saturday night and I was hosting. It was about 1 a.m. and almost everyone in the bar was drunk, and karaoke had been going pretty smoothly. So I call someone up, and he says he wants to sing Zombie by the Cranberries. Problem is, someone sang it like 40 minutes earlier, and one of the few rules we have is no repeat songs. He immediately starts ignoring me telling him this and just keeps repeating that he wants to sing that song. Finally, I get his attention and explain to him that he can't, it just isn't happening. He immediately steps to within about 6 inches of me and says, "You're gonna let me sing that effing song." He then turns away and starts talking into the mic. I tell him one more time, either you sing something else or you don't sing. He then tells me to kill myself and starts ranting about it into the microphone. He was a weird guy. He looked like he'd been crying and he was quite drunk. So now I'm actually mad. I turn his mic all the way down, turn mine all the way up, and call for security. One of the bartenders immediately starts coming towards the stage, and the guy turns to get in my face again. Now, this is where it gets kind of silly. I'm like 5 feet 11 inches and 160 pounds, not a huge guy by any stretch of the imagination. The guy giving me shit is a good 3 inches taller than me and about the same build. The bartender, on the other hand, is about 6 feet 2 inches and 230 pounds with a massive beard and does kickboxing for fun. He's jacked and scary. He gets in the guy's face and the guy immediately steps back and starts talking about how he's so self-conscious about his singing and it's the only song he loves, but he understands the rules and just misunderstood me. It was kind of funny how quickly he backed down. He asked me one more time to let him sing that song and told me it was his girlfriend's favorite. I told him we just can't do it, but I'd let him choose another song. He took some time before finally choosing Rage Against the Machine. The one that explicitly says, "I won't do what you tell me." As the bartender is walking away, the drunk guy says into the microphone, "This song is about fighting against tyrants." My coworker immediately does a 180 and gets about 5 feet away from him and says, "If the next words out of your mouth are words to that song, I'm going to throw you out." Something in him snapped at this point. He picked up the microphone, looked me right in the eyes and said, "I'm going to sing that song tonight." The bartender immediately grabbed him and threw him out of the club. He came back over to me and apologized, but I wasn't bothered at all. I honestly thought the guy would just sing along to the second song choice. The lyrics are literally, "F you, I won't do what you tell me." It would have been more entertaining. We never really had too many issues at this club, so security wasn't exactly tight. The night went on, a few more groups came up to sing different songs, and I'd completely forgotten about the emotional drunk. It must have been about an hour later when suddenly I see a bit of commotion at the entrance. The bartender is blocking someone's path and clearly gesturing for them to leave. I obviously couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see that he was getting physical with someone. That's when things took a turn. The sound was unmistakable. I saw the bartender fall down onto the floor almost immediately, and people around him started panicking. As he fell, I saw the man he was arguing with. It was the emotional drunk guy from earlier. I was positioned in a cramped little hut with a DJ deck, and the only way out was the doorway directly facing him, so I just crouched down and tried peeking through a gap. I watched in terror as he walked straight towards me. He aimed the gun directly at my face, and with tears in his eyes, he demanded I play Zombie by the Cranberries. I started to talk, about to beg for my life, when he interrupted and said, "I don't care about the stupid rule." Like he thought I was going to mention the repeated song rule with a gun pointed at me. "Please. Just do it. I have nothing against you." I agreed to his request and told him I was finding the song. He grabbed the microphone and got into position in the middle of the dance floor. I pressed play and he immediately closed his eyes and looked up, patiently waiting for the intro of the song to end. He starts singing, and I hate to say it, but he was pretty good. He was putting raw emotion into his singing. He was using his arms a lot to gesture, which meant that the gun was pointing all over and I was constantly flinching. Practically everybody had ran out of the club at this point, and I was still trapped in my stupid DJ hut. I think I was too scared to move, but also completely struck by the bizarre experience. As the lyric portion of the song came to an end, he started to look around. I felt a flush go through my whole body as I realized what was about to happen. He looked down at the gun, then towards the bartender on the floor, then back at me. "I'm so sorry." His first shot missed me, as far as I could tell. I immediately started to sprint out of my hut. I had a million thoughts racing through my head as I anticipated his next shot in my back. I'd heard stories about people not realizing they'd been shot because of the adrenaline. I was convinced I was bleeding out and about to collapse. I was running so fast, wondering why I wasn't dead yet. I jumped over the bartender's dead body and made it out of the front door. The crowd screamed when I burst out, and I had cops pointing their guns at me, ordering me to get down. I was alive. But why? After the cops clarified who I was, they pushed in and went to clear the club. It turns out he didn't shoot at me. He shot himself. Straight in the head. Looking back, I think I understand his apology now. He never wanted to kill the bartender, he just wanted to sing that song one last time, and he was the one person in his way. Over the next few weeks we learned more about this guy. His girlfriend had just died and it broke him. They were apparently regulars at the club, and that was their favorite song. I'm not sure if he'd planned on killing himself that night or if the confrontation led him to think it was a good idea, but the whole thing was so messed up. The club shut down after that incident. Nobody wanted to go there anymore, and rumors started that the place was haunted. I moved on to other things and try not to think about it too much. It gave me a new appreciation for life, even if that song gives me panic attacks. I'll start by saying I'm a 21-year-old female university student who lives in a small town in Greece. It's a safe town full of young adults, and I live in a safe area. I've never felt in danger before until that Saturday. 2 weeks ago, I was at a birthday get-together at a restaurant with lots of friends and uni classmates. We were mostly drinking wine, and it was enough to get me tipsy, as I hadn't eaten anything before I came out. After we had dinner and drank, everyone started to leave, and a smaller group of us decided to continue the birthday party and go bar hopping. There were a few of us, the guy who was a designated driver, who was a 21-year-old male, and 3 more girls aged 20 to 21 years old. We went to some bars to dance and ended up in a typical nightclub, all of us tipsy at this point, including the designated driver. But I was the worst of them, getting really dizzy after having more and stronger drinks. After dancing for a couple of hours, the drunken feeling only got worse, so I decided to go home. I told the group that I was leaving, and they suggested walking with me. But my house is half an hour away from where the club was, and I didn't want to make anyone walk all the way there and back. Anyway, the designated driver didn't seem well enough to drive. I could feel that I wasn't exactly walking straight, but I had a sense of my surroundings and knew this road like the back of my hand. It was about 3 a.m, so there were still people outside returning from bars themselves. I was around 15 minutes away from my house, walking past the takeaway place that was open 24/7 when I heard a guy yell, "Hey, sweetheart, don't go. I just want to talk." Since I was the only female walking on this road at this hour, I realized he must have been talking to me. I tried to take a quick look behind me and saw a tall guy in an Adidas tracksuit with a hood over his head. He was walking quickly towards me. I felt an adrenaline rush and began to walk fast. I tried to get past my drunken state and think clearly. My house was in a dark area, and I had to walk through a dark corner behind a grocery store to get there. I'm a sucker for true crime and horror movies, and this felt like a real horror story coming to life. I heard him yelling at me one more time. He was saying that he only wanted to talk, but I had no intentions of stopping. I took my cell phone out of my jacket and pretended to be on the phone, hoping this would sway him off. 5 to 10 minutes later, I stopped hearing footsteps, so I put my phone back in my pocket and let down my guard. I assumed he probably got bored and left. As I was walking, I suddenly heard his voice again, and this time he wasn't far behind me. He was walking right next to me. I felt cold sweat all over my body. "Why are you running away?" he asked. "You're so beautiful. I just wanted to talk to you." He had a thick African accent. We'd been warned by the university about people that had recently illegally come across the border. I said nothing and started to walk faster. He seemed around my age and had a cigarette hanging from his mouth. "Do you have a boyfriend?" he asked. "Yes, sorry." I thought that if I lied and said I was dating someone, he would stop harassing me and go away. "That sucks," he said. "He must be a lucky guy. Can I have your number? I'd love to be with you." "No thanks," I replied. "This is creeping me out, honestly." He started laughing. "I won't hurt you. I am very friendly." He stretched his hand out to me to shake my hand. I reluctantly shook it and immediately knew I'd made a mistake. He pulled me in and started to hug me. He was telling me I smell so good and I am so beautiful. I tried to pull away, but he was really strong and I was still pretty drunk. He announced to me that he will make a very good boyfriend and he will come home with me. I was in complete panic, but I knew I had to say something to get him off me. He was holding me tight for minutes, his hands were exploring my body, and I was regretting every decision that led me here. I told him I was cold and we should go to my house. He let go of me and excitedly agreed. I was only 5 minutes away from where my roommate was sleeping. I had completely sobered up at this point and was thinking about every option in vivid detail. I decided to run. I was so lucky to be wearing my flat shoes and not my heels, which I usually wore every night. I ran so fast, not even looking back. I heard him shouting, but I couldn't understand him. I turned a corner and he'd lost me. I kept running the whole 5 minutes back. I wasn't taking any risks. I got home and immediately locked the door behind me and just collapsed, completely exhausted. I started crying and just wept against the front door for a good few minutes. My friend came downstairs and found me, and I explained what had happened. Nothing came of it afterwards, and I stupidly didn't call the police, but we did make sure that our designated driver in the future wasn't allowed to drink. This happened to me just last year. I'd recently turned 18 and could finally go to a club legally. I'd used fake ID at bars before, but never actually been out to a club. I'm in the UK, where 18 is the legal drinking age. Anyway, it was me and 5 friends, and we had one older guy with us who was 20, so we trusted him to lead the way and show us the ropes. We went from bar to bar, drinking as much as we could, and eventually ended up in a proper nightclub. I've always been quite a sociable guy, and when I've had a few drinks, I get really chatty and friendly. This group of lads were dancing next to us, and one of them kept bumping into me. I didn't think he was doing it on purpose, so I tapped him on the shoulder and tried making conversation. I politely told him that he was bumping into me pretty hard and joked that he nearly spilled my drink. I thought I was making friendly banter, but I guess he thought otherwise. He punched me in the nose and I blacked out for a second. I stumbled back and suddenly they're all having a brawl. I didn't throw any punches and just tried to help my friends and pull everyone apart. Suddenly, I'm grabbed from behind by a massive bouncer, or whatever you call them in America, doorman. He pulls me by the collar and throws me outside and tells me to go home. Within a few seconds, the rest of the bouncers throw out a few more guys, and I realize I'm in big trouble. None of them were my friends. It was just the group of lads that had attacked us. I tried to reason with the bouncers that I wasn't with them and that they were gonna mess me up. But they just pushed me away and swore at me. I turned to look at them and they made it a few meters down the road. I think I'm safe, but then one of them turns around and spots me. I wasn't taking any chances. I just started sprinting. I ran like an absolute mad lad. My heart was bulging through my chest and my pulse was echoing through my skull. They were chasing me, and I could hear them shouting, but I've always been pretty athletic, so I outran them without a problem. My nose had been bleeding this whole time and my new shirt was drenched in blood. I made my way into another club and messaged my mates about what had happened. They didn't reply for about 40 minutes and told me they didn't even realize I'd been kicked out. Didn't hang out with them much after that.
It's a murder on the dance floor, but you better not kill the groove, DJ. Gonna burn this goddamn house right down.